Hi, I'm Abram Brunson. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Satanja District Hospital, but you probably already knew that. As Chief Financial Officer, I have responsibilities for purchase services, for IT, and other ancillary departments like that. I've been asked today, and I'm honored to be able to talk to you about a little bit what life is like for me, how I got here, and what I do, as well as some questions that are topics that are interesting to you. I hope. We'll find out. As Chief Financial Officer, my primary responsibilities for recording and reporting finances is a long, laborious task, and it never ends. It repeats itself monthly. It's a cycle. And if you take another accounting, you know that that's what you're getting yourself into if you choose my line of work. Now, how I got here is, I think it's just the course of a natural life, but I'd like to share it with you so you can see that really whatever you put your mind to, you can figure out. Now, my patriarchal blessing said that I should search for a job that wouldn't interfere with my being able to keep the Sabbath day holy. And throughout the course of my educational career, if you will, as a student, I thought about it a lot. And so as you're going through these things, same thing I did, I would encourage the same, that you realistically think about how that lifestyle will or won't provide what you really want it to do. And for that example is, as a freshman or sophomore, my first 2 years at BYU Idaho, I was pre-med. I decided I wanted to be a doctor, and knew that it would provide, financially, for everything I needed for my family. And it was a true analysis of, really, did I want my kids to be, my oldest child, to be 14 years old by the time I first turned a paycheck as a provider? And really, did I want to wait till I was in my mid-30s to own a home first? And then, unfortunately, I not being able to handle human blood creeps me out, makes me pass out, was pretty much the deciding factor. But it wasn't a hard decision to make, knowing that I was doing that which coincided with the counsel that I received. Now, I cannot iterate how important that is, or how grateful I am to be able to share these things with you. I don't feel like I'm that far out of being in an educational atmosphere, so I feel like the things that I might say were things I would really have liked somebody to say to me, only 5 years ago when I was at undergrad at BYU Idaho. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in April of 2011, and then graduated with my master's degree in May of January of 2014. Yep, 2014. And I really enjoyed my time at BYU Idaho. Loved the classes, and probably the classes that most set me up to be able to successfully do my job here. Now, given granted, I was a health sciences major, a minor in health education, and I didn't take any accounting. I took all the math I needed in high school, and so I didn't take any accounting, as I was realistically pre-med. And medical law and ethics helped me out a lot to see what life would be like, really, working in a hospital. And health services marketing, program development were probably the classes that prepared me most for the kinds of things that I do on a daily basis here. Graduating from BYU Idaho, I did my internship at Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center, ERMIC, as it's collectively understood, working in operations, assisting the chief operating officer. That was fantastic. It was a lot of great information. It was a lot of seeing the things that I'd studied daily And the only regret I had is I would hear, oh, we're going to do this or we're going to do that. And I would literally be like, okay, I learned this. I've done this. This is the best way to accomplish this. And my analysis of the best approach, the best practice to accomplishing it was the only thing that set me back. It was in my reserve of knowledge. It just hadn't been practiced. And I would find that the things they would do or the things that I learned to do, I just simply hadn't practiced enough. And so I felt like my education, the things I learned, the things I prepared myself to do, the knowledge that I had was on track. Just the experiences of going through the motions and watching the outcomes and how to critically think about the outcomes was the experience that I needed and that I was happy to gain as an intern. So probably the takeaway there is if you don't get enough hands-on or you feel like the hands-on is boring, guess what? It realistically is used every day. That doesn't mean I condone group work. And so when I finished working for Aramek, I had quote unquote promised my my manager at Melaleuca, shout out to all you Melaleucites, that I would stay there for a certain amount of time more. It was perfect, so I would just continue to work and turn in my applications for graduate schools. Maybe better I didn't hear and say that it's hard to tell my own story because I feel like I'm just a normal guy who worked really hard and knew what he wanted. And so if that first bit seemed kind of awkward at all, it was because I don't think I'm special. I mean, I enjoy my job. I worked hard to get where I am, but the reality is I'm just a normal guy. So sorry if that was awkward. Let's keep rolling. I applied to two schools. I applied to KU MBA and KU MHA. Okay, and I wanted to have both in my pocket, so I wasn't stuck with one or the other. But I really wanted an MBA. I political science buff. I follow politics all the time. I care about healthcare policy, and so for me to get a degree in that, I would really just freak out all the time because it's all I ever studied. And I knew that doing an MBA, I would have the strengths of marketing, I'd have the strengths of accounting, and most importantly, I would be able to learn from best practices of all over industries, rather than the yes man that comes from an MHA. And not that all MHAs are yes man, but realistically they care about policy administration, and I was much more interested in running a hospital like an efficient business. And an MBA would also provide, running a non-for-profit, how to deal with tax revenues, how to deal with local statutes and all that kind of stuff, where I knew I wanted critical access. I knew I was going to be working in smaller communities. And so, yeah, that was it, for me. An MBA was a no-brainer. So obviously I did both because I wanted to be able to do either if that was the option. And when I interviewed from MHA, the guy that interviewed me, I would later take a class from him during grad school, but he said, you know what, we think you're a great candidate, but we also think that you should look at getting an MBA. And I said, can I get that in writing for the other program? And he's like, and frankly, we mash up so much content that there's a likelihood that you could take classes here anyway. And I said, that's fantastic. And so when I applied for BYU for my MBA at KU, rock chalk, by the way, okay, even though last Saturday was a horrible loss and we all cried ourselves to sleep, when I interviewed at KU, they said, yeah, you can even do an emphasis in healthcare administration. We offer that. And I was like, sold, done, let's do this. And so I never looked back. I never planned on doing any other program. Why KU? I didn't want to do a BSU or an ISU, as affordable as those are, um, because I wanted something program that would challenge my political beliefs. I'm going to KU, get my MBA. I had great experience getting my MBA. First year there, I said, you know what, they told me, don't work for your first semester, fill this out, make sure it's something you can do easy. And it wasn't that difficult. I felt like I had all the skills they were, expecting, so it wasn't really hard. But I wanted to apply myself so that I would continue to build a portfolio of experiences that would be employable. And I came across an opportunity to do some consulting work for a hospital. That was one of the major selling points of going to KU, was the integration in the business community. They were consistently working with businesses in the community in every industry. I mean, obviously it's a business school and they're supposed to. And there's entrepreneurship, and that's fantastic. But to really move forward in the industry, it's really who you develop relationships with. And KU offered that. They said, oh yeah, we will always have relationships with business communities, and we provide services to them. And so I knew that I was going to be able to do that, whether it was going to be an outpatient clinic, a doctor's office, or a hospital, that I would have that opportunity. And so I had an opportunity. I could have chose from working for area mental health. I could have worked for I ended up choosing the hospital or a women's shelter. And each of those, are beneficial in their own right, but I chose a hospital because it was a critical access hospital. And, they had challenges that I felt like I could provide services to. So finishing my MBA, I began doing clerical work for a long-term care / CCRC. And for my long-term care folks, I'll talk to you more about that in a little bit. I was, a staff accountant. I loved my job. It was a great place. My boss was it was really awesome. And it was enjoyable. I was approached by a recruiter with whom I'd spoken early on for a company called Cerner. If you don't know who Cerner is, then you probably can't say that you're a healthcare administration buff. Okay. So I began doing that. 3 months in, found out that they wanted me to do something else. They loved me so much, they wanted me to stick in trauma 1s and trauma 2s. So consequently, I did trauma 1s and trauma 2s in Mississippi. I did Adventist Health System in Maryland and in DC, and probably 60, 70 hours in 3 days, 4 days on the road. And I went back to my hotel and I'd work, and my colleagues would go back to the hotel and then go to the bar, or just go wander around. I worked. If I was going to be working, I was going to work, and that was part of the reason why it was easy for me to move up and move around. So I did that for a while, and when the administrator that I worked with and during my grad school days, I said, hey, there's a neighboring hospital that's looking for a CFO job. Are you interested? And I said, yes, definitely. What do I need to get them? And he's like, well, I'm just going to send them your LinkedIn information. Is that kosher? And I said, well, let me give it a look over to make sure that it's, that there isn't anything that's changed or anything I want to modify. And yeah, that would be great. I never submitted a resume for this job. I said, hey, there's my LinkedIn information, use it if you're interested. There you go. And the CEO called me 3 days later, and and we had a phone interview, and 2 weeks later, I came and interviewed in person, and 3 weeks after that, I started. So it was a pretty quick process. They knew what they wanted. They'd interviewed some other people. The position had been open for a few months. So that's me in a nutshell. I cut it right here, so